Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 166 of the Note Coach podcast. I almost feel like I should do a clickety-click with that. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg, and today we're chatting about microdosing disappointment. I was chatting to someone recently, and they were talking about, why don't we think the best? So I'm sure I'm not the only one where you get an email, subject heading, we need to talk. And isn't it funny when something's written, there's no tonality with it. So if the subject heading is we need to talk, I read that as we need to talk. And I immediately go to, what did I do wrong? Or are they mad at me? I've got a whole episode with Elise. If you scroll back, are you mad at me? Or if it's someone says, I've got some feedback, you might immediately go to, what's this going to be? And, why don't we assume the best? Why don't we think that this is going to be a good thing? Oh, we need to talk. What have they loved about what I've done? Or I'm looking forward to this conversation, or this is going to be a good thing. And it's almost like we microdose with disappointment. I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to get too big for my britches. I don't want to risk being disappointed. So instead, I will microdose with disappointment along the way so that when the thing doesn't happen, I don't feel so bad. And my question is, how's that working out for you? Such a blasé delivery, but it's so true. It's like, by microdosing with disappointment, do we actually avoid the big disappointment at the end? If you're working towards a goal and you don't hit it, and you tell yourself along the way, oh, I'm not going to make it. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's not big of a deal. Does that stop the big disappointment at the end when it doesn't happen? Chances are no, but it stops you from feeling good in the moment. I like to think about it. If you're going to make up stories, because basically when we get someone saying we need to talk, or I've got some feedback, or about your podcast, or about your email, or whatever, and we're going to tell ourselves stories in our head about all the things they're going to say, might as well make up good ones. So my invitation, if you are prone to microdosing with disappointment, because, that you teach what you most need to learn so you can learn it. That's been, me in the past. Instead, when I catch myself in a story, I just say to myself, you're going to tell yourself a story, might as well be a good one. So now it's like, oh, they're so excited. They loved the show. They're going to invite me to speak on Oprah, or they're going to invite me to, be on the stage, or they're going to magically make up a grant to give me because they love my work so much. Neither is likely to be true, but one makes me feel like shit and one makes me feel excited. And if I'm going to tell myself stories, might as well be the ones that I enjoy. And I'd just love you to consider, where do you microdose with disappointment? And how could you notice that in the moment and tell yourself a different story? If you're, running late for work and you're like, oh, there's going to be traffic and I'm going to be so late and I'm going to run in there. Like, when you're sitting in that traffic, or even thinking about the traffic, what if you're like, I'm going to get every single green light. This is going to be the most amazing run ever. It's going to be so fast. Or like, I've flown a lot recently. You're sitting in the airport and you're waiting and you're like, what time's the flight going to get in? You can sit and spin in all the drama, or you can be like, look, I've got extra time. I've got nothing else to do. Might as well, enjoy this book or podcast or show or whatever it is you're doing. Like, be present with what you have rather than wasting the time that you have worrying about the fact that you're late or it's not going to happen the way you thought. Like, how much more freedom do we have when we live in the moment and make the best of what we're doing? And also, this is slightly off-center to this topic, but I think sometimes we lose track of our own involvement in the thing. And this podcast, for an example, this is a daily show. Most of the time, I love doing it. There are moments where I'm like, not today. But this is why I've committed to doing 365 days straight. So you see the full gamut, the ups and downs, the ins and outs. The days I'm like, I can't wait to talk about this. And the days I'm like, I think this is trash. But, the honesty of being in the moment there is me recording the show and what I think about it. Like there's been some episodes where I hit stop and I'm like, that was my best work. That was fire. And then there's been the response to that episode. People's response to me, people's response to us, when we let that change how we are responding, that is a whole different story. It kind of reminds me of, when you're really proud of something. I know I've spoken about this on a previous episode, but you might not listen to them all. I doubt you will, given there's 166 of them. But when I was young, I created this poster. I wrote about it in my book, The Beginning of Shit. I usually got a copy of my book nearby. So this is my book. In the first 2 chapters, which you can get for free. If you go to my website, SuzanneCulberg.com, click on resources, click on book. You can download the first 2 chapters for free. And I believe in marketing transparency. That does not automatically add you to my email list. It just literally gives you the first 2 chapters so you can try before you buy. Anyway, I spoke about this poster that I made that I was proud of. There was colors, there was photos, there was glitter. I thought I was like the duck's guts. I absolutely loved this poster. Then other people's reaction to the poster. What do you think you are, a model? Look at all that glitter. Are you 4? Like I allowed, and at the time I was a child, so there is that. But how often in our life, and I still do this as an adult, we allow other people's reaction to our thing to change our view of it. And other people's reaction often has very little to do with us as a person. If I think about that now, maybe they didn't have a poster, or maybe they hadn't had a chance to do it, or maybe, their reaction to my poster says more about them than it does about me. People's reaction to my show says more about them than it does about me. If you are enjoying the thing that you're doing and it's alive and well and nourishing for you, letting other people's reaction to it, like you shouldn't talk so fast, your accent is annoying, you swear too much, like people are always going to have opinions. But I love what I'm doing. And I think that shows through. And in whatever it is that you're doing, like, oh, what will people think? I don't even know if I've had an episode on that yet. What will they think? I'll have to have a look. But when we allow what will they think to stop us from even questioning what we think, why do we think so much about what they think? This is a whole other kettle of fish, so to speak. So all of this to say, what I'd love for you to take away from this episode is where or if in your life you don't allow yourself to play full out. You don't allow yourself to get excited. You don't allow yourself to be invested because what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if I can't repeat this? What will other people think? So inadvertently, on the daily, you're micro-dosing with disappointment so that down the line, if it doesn't turn out how you thought, you won't be as disappointed. And my question is, if you do that, because I can countless times, I've personally done that, how has that worked out for you? For me, I never felt any less disappointed in the end than I was on the way through, but I didn't have nearly as good a time as doing it. So if you're going to tell yourself stories on the day-to-day, why don't you tell yourself good ones? Why don't you think the best of what you're doing and yourself and your effort and how you're showing up more than what other people make and mean and tell themselves and try and tell you about why you're doing what you're doing? Something to ponder. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really am keen to hear any responses to this one. So if you're watching it on YouTube, please drop a comment. If you watch me on YouTube a lot, please subscribe. I absolutely would love to have you on my YouTube subscriber list. I do keep a track on those numbers, and yeah, whenever I see a new subscriber, like a new number that is slowly creeping up, it totally warms my heart. I'm like, oh look, someone else is subscribing. So really, I do encourage you to subscribe to me on YouTube. And if you're listening in on any other platform and you've got something you want to share about this, go to my website, SuzanneCulberg.com, click on the contact page and let me know, whereabouts do you microdose with disappointment? Love to hear. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.